Okay, I'm going to react to the story that happened with Lauren Chen, Tenet Media, and this Russian influence coming into these major conservative commentators such as Dave Rubin, Tim Pool, and Benny Johnson. And I'm going to focus on those three people in particular because they were receiving massive sums of money and not doing nearly enough due diligence, almost like an embarrassingly low amount of due diligence. Just looking at the short-term economic gain, not asking nearly enough questions. Where is all this crazy sum of money coming from? So I'm going to react to the Breaking Points video, just a little part of it, and a little part of the Megyn Kelly video on this as well. So we'll get started here.
I actually looked it up just to make sure.
The major names of Benny Johnson, Tim Pool, and Dave Rubin. I think many
Those
people
are the
in our
major
audience
ones.
will know.
Yes, okay. And again, none of these individuals are accused of wrongdoing.
Correct.
However, the details here are quite extraordinary. So Tenet Media hires these influencers for extraordinary sums of money to produce some content for them. I'm talking like $100,000 a video, under the pretext that the Tenet Media people, run by Lauren Chen and her husband.
So that is incredible. $100,000 per video is amazing. And then watch this in a few minutes here. Watch how much research went into that money. Where's that money coming from? $100,000 per video is a ton of money. What does one video take? It might take in some cases 3 hours of work. 100 grand. Let's continue here.
And what's his name?
Liam
Donovan. Under the pretext, which they apparently knew was a false pretext, that there was this elusive, wealthy businessman who was funding all of this. And again, we're talking like $100,000 a video plus. Insane amounts of money for this, okay? So it turns out that this elusive businessman is totally made up. Turns out that these two RT, like Russian agents, effectively, were influencing content. They were in the Discord telling these creators and the producers involved with these videos that were being, produced for this money, like, hey, let's focus in on this angle of maybe it was Ukraine that was behind the ISIS Moscow attack. Hey, why don't you guys post this Tucker Carlson grocery shopping video? I'll show you that in a minute, which is hilarious because one of the producers was actually like, this just seems like direct shilling, and they're like, no, you should do it. And they're like, okay, fine, we'll do it. So directly shaping content and getting paid through commentators went through with the deal, the indictment alleges, after receiving a resume. Let's put A2 up on the screen that has a little bit more detail. Eventually, they did the deal. Benny Johnson, we think that could be Dave Rubin, but one of the two of them.
And yeah, so the video I'll show in a sec, it's not exactly clear if this is Benny or Dave Rubin with the initial deal, but it looks like there's like a likelihood they were all getting paid this deal of $100,000 per video, which Krystal breaks down here. But yeah, $400,000 a month in exchange for 4 monthly videos plus a $100K signing bonus. That's $4.9 million a year. That's like NBA money, like not a starting star NBA player, but that's professional athlete money for one video a month. And those people aren't even the A-list of political commentators. They're not the Tucker Carlson or the Joe Rogan. They're, I would say, arguably even C-tier commentators. Benny Johnson, I don't think is that influential or that big. I think maybe you could argue that Tim Pool recently has kind of grown his star pretty high to be more of a B-list commentator. And I think Dave Rubin probably was bigger more like 5-6 years ago. You got to ask more. That amount of money is an absurd amount of money for nothing exclusive. One video a week, still make money doing your regular job. That is incredible.
Would unknowingly work for the Russians for $400,000 a month in exchange for 4 monthly videos. Guys, we work in this industry. That is an insane amount of money per video, plus a $100,000 signing motivation I was telling you about. So on or about February 15th, they say, with Tenet Media, we're exerting on the type of content attack. This person opined on Ukraine. They got commentator 3 to do it. They have
a statement, neither her husband, Liam, that Lauren Chen and her husband were aware that, quote, it was the Russians in private communications between the two of them, multiple other circumstantial evidence.
And so again, that point about Lauren Chen being like the main issue in the story, and Lauren Chen's YouTube, by the way, got totally deleted off of YouTube. So certainly at this moment, Lauren Chen looks like she probably just created her political career entirely. I mean, maybe she can kind of have like a villain arc come back in some capacity, but this is not looking good at all for her. We haven't heard her side yet, but as it stands right now, very, very tough look for Lauren Chen and the future of Lauren Chen's, like I mentioned, political career. Although, I mean, as a caveat, I want to mention, I haven't heard anything from her defense yet. It's so difficult at this point to kind of imagine that she's going to be able to come out looking positive from this story, but
guys showing that they were like, when they couldn't get a response for why invoices weren't being paid, they were Googling time in Moscow as to why all of this was not coming in on time. I mean, at a philosophical level, it's sad, honestly, because it's very clear that the money was just so good that nobody was not
part in the movie The Big Short where I believe it's Steve Carell's character. I'll pull it up actually right here, but he says,
they're selling ratings for fees. A rating shot.
You can afford to make less, make less.
Nobody said that.
why don't you just take less money? That's probably the initial thought I had when I heard about the story. Just make less money to these guys, like to this Dave Rubin, Tim Pool, and Benny Johnson. Just make less money. If this deal comes along and you can't verify what's happening just from this French billionaire, they're going to pull up the resume of him in a second here. Just make less money. You don't need to do this. Warren Buffett has a quote: there's enough money to be made in the middle of the court. You don't need to do these shady things around the edges because it might be out of bounds, I think is like the lesson in that analogy.
Asking real questions.
Yeah.
So, for example, let's put A5, please, up on the screen.
This is amazing.
This is delicious because at one point they're like, hey, who is the guy? I want to see something about him. And this is literally the resume that was sent to them of some mystery rich man named Edward Gregorian. Now, we don't have full, the resolution on this is actually quite bad because it comes from the indictment itself, but it says experienced finance professional investor, deeply engaged in business and philanthropy, leveraging skills and resources to drive positive impact. Just a bunch of complete bullshit, honestly.
So this is what was sent to them when they were trying to get more information about who is this person. Just like a stock photo leaflet thing with like some resume that looks like you could make that on Adobe or whatever tool you want to use, Canva, in like 5 minutes, and it's just a bunch of like apparently generic business talk. Just looks like it was just copy pasted from LinkedIn. The amount of or the words that they chose to use.
Life and education. They say that he had a bachelor's degree in economics, a master's in accounting. He had some professional experience in financial analysis.
How about the question, why would this made-up person named Edward Gregorian be willing to give all of this money to these influencers, $100K a video, and then the way it broke down, close to $5 million, if not just over $5 million a year for one video a week? Why would this guy in this picture looking out the airplane window want to do that? So I think, like I said, Dave Rubin, Tim Pool, and Benny Johnson are going to have to answer for this. And I think they should take a hit in their credibility for their judgment here. What are you thinking? Ask more questions. Where do you think, is there not a chance that this money's actually coming from a shady place and not coming from some random French rich dude who wants to build this YouTube channel? Like, what would be the defense from the three influencers that this Edward Gregorian guy wants to be influential in politics, who's going to pay some influencers to build this YouTube channel up from the ground up and kind of pay them way too much money at the beginning to try and build a base for this YouTube channel, and then you can grow that in the future and then be influential like in world politics? I guess that had to have been from Tim Pool, for example's point of view. Like, I guess this guy just wants to be influential and he's going to pay us way too much money off the bat to produce these videos for him in the hopes that he can establish a presence. I think this whole situation looks so bad. I'm going to go to Megyn Kelly's part here and hear what she has to say about this. She makes some good points.
And three others
I've
never heard of. And she, according to the indictment, knew that the Russians would be funding this and editing content. None of them has been indicted. The feds are saying Rubin, Pool, Benny Johnson, they didn't know. They were not told. In fact, they were given misinformation by Lauren because they allege she knew they would never do this if they understood it was being funded by the Russians. She told them that it was all being funded by some French businessman, Edward Gregorian. And the indictment alleges that both Tim and Dave, I don't know about the others, tried to...
But again, that is just totally not good enough. And these three guys, they're already all rich, for sure. They have large online presence. They're probably all really millionaires. I don't know their exact financial situation, but if they're not all millionaires, they're definitely on track to be all millionaires. I would bet that they all are currently billionaires based on how large are the online platforms that they have. Just for that, that Big Short clip, just make less. Don't do this. You don't need to do these deals where there's so many questions. If some established corporation or some established person comes to you and offers you a deal where it looks like there's no chance for just being shady, then take it. But if you're already an established professional and you already have a real reputation, these three people, their business and all their relationships and just their platforms online in general rely to a large extent on their reputation. What are you thinking doing this? Where's the long-term vision, the long-term strategy from taking all this money from some French billionaire who you don't even know who it is. It's such a poor decision. And it's a good lesson, actually, just for people watching. Like, if someone's watching this and they're a content creator, it's a great lesson in what you can do to hurt your reputation long term. I think this is actually a humongous deal for these three creators. And I think this is such a catastrophic mistake. I don't think it can be overstated. Like, I don't think it'll necessarily be career ruining because they still have an audience, but I think it certainly will affect them in a negative way for a long time. And this affects, by the way, your reputation with the wrong people. Like, you still may have the fans that just kind of tune in here and there and don't really pay attention to all the drama, but to the real serious players in this industry, the people that are rich and the legitimate people that don't want to deal with other people who are in shady fields, or they feel like there's a chance that there's going to be a shady aspect to negotiating with them, this is going to damage the reputation for those people. So I think for these three content creators, they've burned a lot of bridges. They might not see those, but a lot of future opportunities probably will not happen now because of this decision. And that's definitely
Kick the tires
how I
a
feel about
bit.
it.
Obviously, not
And
enough.
Megyn Kelly, by the way, she actually mentions here, she doesn't try to throw Dave Rubin under the bus. She does it in a classy way, but she tells a story here that she told Dave Rubin not to do this.
Who this is.
And
Who's
she's
Edward
obviously
Gregorian.
right.
And they wanted to see like a profile of the guy. All that was forwarded was a LinkedIn, which appears obviously to have been fake. And then Dave Rubin is, according to the indictment, the guy who pushed more and said, like, this isn't enough. And then they created this whole fake profile
Okay, it was enough, though, because he took the deal, so...
of this guy, Edward Gregorian. That's like pretty fancy. I'm holding it up.
See, Megan's kind of trying to sell it like it's good. We just kind of saw it. I mean, again, like the breaking points, people said the resolution on it was tough, but I would not be like, that's nothing. It's just like a thing that someone could make on Canva in literally 2 minutes if you wanted.
It up for the listening audience. And you can see, frankly, it looks a little obviously stock picture at the top of some vaguely attractive man looking out a window of a private jet.
That
And then
means
it's got all
nothing.
sorts of
It's like
fawning descriptions about the guy.
that movie, the Benchwarmers, like the I Am 12 thing of that guy that wants to play in the Little League World Series. I Am 12.
And Dave apparently did push back even after that, saying, I'm not sure about this guy. It says he's into social justice. Why is he looking for me? Anyway, there was some pushback. But here's the bottom line. They were offering...
And that was the point that the Breaking Points actually did a better job of this. I'm not going to go back to it just to find the one part, but the Breaking Points made a point that of that stock photo resume thing that they sent over, the only part, apparently, or the part they cared most about was a little section where it said that this Edward Gregorian fake dude was into social justice. So that's all they really cared about, apparently. Or the big part they cared about was, oh, social justice. This guy doesn't have the same politics as me. Ick. They didn't care the fact that someone could have just made that on Canva in 7 seconds.
Eye-popping sums to these influencers, and they took the deal. According to the indictment, Dave was offered some number, and he went back and said, I'm not getting involved with this. And he didn't do anything really extraordinary for them. He was doing something like viral videos, and are they funny? Ha ha ha, for a few months. But for that, they were willing to pay him $400,000 a month, every month for a year, plus a signing bonus, plus another bonus. So we're talking about, between $5 and $6 million.
That's
for 1 year.
Ask more questions,
and
guys.
Tim Pool,
Come on.
Reportedly, well, according to the indictment, was charging $100,000 per video per week. He would post something, I guess, once a week, which would be in a similar ballpark. And I will tell you, in the podcast world, those are jaw-dropping sums.
Those are ridiculous.
And I'm sure people will make the argument they should have known. My friend Jim Garrity's making that argument right now over at National Review, and others will make that same argument. But I can tell you,
that's like $5 million a year for totally not a full-time salary. It's like a side gig, little side hustle on the side, one video a week for a salary that's, what would that $5 million be? That'd be something like 100 times the amount of an average salary, full-time. Like, that's 100 times more than a salary of $50,000 a week. Here, I'm going to give you $5 million for this little side gig. You just have to allocate a few hours a week to. That's incredible that those three influencers did not ask more questions and they accepted this. So, again, I made this point, but very, very poor decision-making skills. And I was going to mention this actually at the beginning of the video. Like, I'm not a left-wing person. I'm just calling this as it is.
you personally, that I've known Dave for a long time, and there is zero chance that he knew anything about this. I agree.
They probably didn't know, but They didn't look enough. They just saw the money at the beginning. And I would, like, how do you not think that there's a chance that this money is shady? Not that it's necessarily coming from Russia, but just that it's coming from some other foreign country that has nefarious goals or nefarious, like, mindset about what this money is going to be, or it's coming from some other shady group of people, not even a country, just maybe this Edward Gregorian fake guy's a front for some other organization or some other maybe criminal thing. Like, it's incredible.
I had a conversation a year ago, he and I can disclose this, in which he mentioned this in passing. This wasn't like our main point, but he mentioned this. And he told me, I said, who's funding this? And he said, it's a French businessman. And Dave would have no reason to lie to me that he said that explicitly. And not for nothing, but the conversation went on. And I will tell you that I told him not to do it.
Wow.
And that was not necessarily because I knew anything about the funding. We didn't get into that more than him saying it was this French guy. But I don't have good feelings about this Lauren Chen. And I was right. And I'm sorry that Dave got swept up in this. And I'm sorry Tim did. I don't know Benny, but I do think these guys are right that they were the victims in this game. And sure, you can say they should have known. I get it. But you guys know I did.
Yes, that is what I'm saying.
That fraud series over our.
So the last thing I'm going to cover here, I'm just going to show some Tim Pool. So Tim Pool you got to take more responsibility, Tim. You have to. And I don't know necessarily what Benny Johnson and Dave Rubin have said, but Tim Pool has been trying to meme his way out of this. And I think Tim Pool, this is actually pathetic. And I'm somebody, again, not a left-wing person. I think Tim Pool's show, for the most part, is generally pretty entertaining. He does a good job. He puts out a ton of content, but look, he's trying to meme his way out of this. Tim, pathetic. Take responsibility, dude. Come on, Tim Pool. Actually embarrassing as making the situation worse than it already is. It's already bad. Slava Ukrainian. He changed, you see his Twitter profile here, changed it to have an Israel flag and a Ukraine flag, trying to be funny, trying to be edgy and meme his way out of this. So here he comments that I think this is serious, that he got contacted by the FBI as a potential victim. But here, I remember back when they said I was funded by the CIA, then it was right-wingers, now it's the Russians. Tomorrow it will be, I don't know, like Poland or something. Clown. That's a clown world response, Tim. That's pathetic. Pathetic. He's got a couple more in here, unless he deleted them. But, yeah, see, I am now pro-war. We must fund Israel and Ukraine. Take the L, Tim. Take the L. You're not going to meme your way out of this. Upon reflection, this is the first one I probably saw. I now understand that Ukraine is now our greatest ally. As the breadbasket of Europe and a peace-loving people, we cannot allow the fascist Russians to continue their crimes against humanity. We must redouble our efforts and provide an initial $200 billion at once. Just take the responsibility, Tim. As I said, take the L. You got to come up with something better than this, in my opinion. So I think for now, Tim Pool, reputation, justifiably has taken a huge hit, and it probably will going forward. Even if he does actually apologize and give some not reasonable, but just give some actual take on, look, I made a massive mistake. This is what I was thinking, and this is what I'm going to change going forward. I should not have taken this deal, etc. So, yeah, that's my point. I think I made my point in the video that Tim Pool, Benny Johnson, Dave Rubin, massive hit to their credibility, and should not have taken this deal under any circumstance. So with that said, thank you for watching this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments if you agree or disagree. Either way, thank you for watching. Have a good day.